You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome to our show today. It's Wednesday, August 12th, 2020, middle of the weekday, hump day, starting that long, slow glide down to Pauhana Friday and another crazy weekend. We have got a lot of stuff to talk about today. And as usual, I'm going to talk about news until I run out of news, at which point we'll open the phone lines, get you on here with your comments, questions, observations, and opinions. Mike is in our control room, twiddling the dials, keeping us out of trouble, ready to answer the phone when you do start calling in, which is going to be about 45 minutes from now here. So let's just tuck right on into it. The corporate media, of course, is still going overboard over Kamala Harris being Joe Biden's running mate. We're waiting on the press conference where they're going to have their first joint event, and it's all set up there with all the flags. And, you know, I've noticed something very odd here. They've got all these different flags of all the states back there, and in the center, they've got 5 American flags that seem more broadly displayed than the others. And I'm just wondering, is there like some little wire rig inside there to make sure those flags show a little bit more? It almost seems kind of embarrassing to do that because the other flags certainly don't do that at all. So there's something going on there. And it's obvious enough to call attention to itself. All righty. Trump apparently is surprised that Biden chose Kamala Harris because she called him essentially racist during the 2019 primary fight, and then claims the first black female VP candidate is his number one pick to face off against. Well, maybe not. And we're seeing that in a lot of the media where they're out there saying she's the first female black person to go for president and vice president. It's not exactly true. There was Charlotta Bass. She was the first black woman to run for vice president. She joined a Progressive Party ticket in 1952, the year I was born, more than a decade before the Voting Rights Act was even signed into law. Then there was Shirley Chisholm and other black women who aimed for the White House. And it's time to basically bring them back and say, yes, this is not a new thing. There have been women that have run for VP before. I mean, Sarah Palin, most recently. Janine Ferraro, I seem to recall, was out there running for VP. So anyway. And there is this question about whether she's really black or not. I mean, she's being portrayed that she identifies as African American. Well, I can identify as a Martian. Doesn't make me one. Her parents are Indian. Her mother is from India, and her father's from Jamaica. Now, the Jamaican blacks are there, again, because of the slave trade. But a lot of them, like here in the United States of America, are post-slavery blacks. They never were slaves. They're not descended from slaves. In fact, there was quite a bit of escaping going on in Jamaica with a group called the Maroons, who basically lived free in Jamaica. And their descendants live there to this very day. So there's really no connection between Jamaica and the American, African-American population. They're trying to treat them like they're one monolithic block for the purposes of the election, but that's very unfair, and it's demeaning and disrespectful to say that the American black people are no different than the Jamaican black people, because I think if you ask either one of those groups, they're going to say, no, we're not the same. We have our own unique culture. We have our own unique identity. And we resent being lumped together into one demographic unit and treated like you can get our vote just by having somebody who by hook or by crook may have a little bit of African ancestry in them. And of course, they're trying to play up the fact that Kamala Harris's mother was from India, because that, of course, makes her Asian as well. So she's not only the first black woman to run for the vice presidency, she's the first Asian woman to run for the president. It's almost like they need to go out and do a 23andMe DNA test, and they just go down and say, oh, there's a little bit of Irish in there, so she's the first Irish American woman to run for the vice presidency. And down a little further, oh, there's French in there, and there's British in there, and there's German, and who knows what else is in there. And they're just going to go down and tick off all those boxes and say, well, that makes her the first Asian African American, Chinese, Swiss, French, English, German, South African, Chinese, Japanese to run for the vice presidency. You can see how silly this is going to get before it's all over and done with. So somebody's already trying to put out this idea that Kamala Harris is not a natural born citizen as defined in the Constitution because her parents were not born in this country. That's not what it says. Go back and read the Constitution. Natural born citizen means born in this country, and Kamala Harris was born in Oakland, California. She does qualify into the Constitution. So we're not going to go down that road. And as usual, they're trying to muddy up the water with a lot of stuff. So you don't pay attention to what she actually has done and said that might make her a little bit less desirable as the vice president, literally in this case, one heartbeat away from the presidency. And the majority of Americans right now are convinced that Biden will not complete his first 4 years in office, which means we are talking about a potential president of the United States here. As a matter of fact, Fox News was running a story earlier today where they said this election in November is really about Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump. And Joe Biden's already being sort of sidelined and put out to pasture, as it were. So you need to look very carefully because probably Kamala Harris is more than any other vice presidential candidate. You need to look at what she stands for and what she's done because she could very well end up in that Oval Office. Okay, now she's staunchly anti-gun. She believes in using executive orders to enact a nationwide gun ban. She's sort of waffled and flip-flopped on the issue of Medicare for all. And, you know, we're going to start digging out all the stuff in her background. WikiLeaks has already put out something like 130 documents about her. And, of course, that affair that she had with Willie Brown to advance her career, that's getting a fair amount of exposure. And I'm looking at this event here that they're waiting for Biden and Harris to hold first joint event. I can almost imagine backstage they're going to Biden. Biden, this is your vice president. Okay, repeat after me. Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris. Stop sniffing her hair. Kamala Harris. Okay, get ready. Just read the cue cards and everything will be fine. Okay, so we're still waiting on that. All right, so now John Kasich, who ran a failed Republican presidential campaign in 2016, and I don't know if it's Kasich or Kasich, but he told CNN this week that he has a right to define what it means to be a conservative as he prepares to speak at the Democratic National Convention next week. Now, apparently, a lot of Asian Democrats were very upset because in the published list of speakers for the Democratic National Committee, the convention, rather, where they're pushing identity politics, there aren't any Asians up there. Well, problem is solved. Kamala Harris's mother is from India, and that qualifies her as an Asian. And I think they're going to try and qualify her as a little bit of everything. This is the first presidential campaign in which being, your average human mutt, your Heinz 57 variety human being is really going to be a plus and a positive here. Trump is out there saying that if Biden can stand up and breathe, the media will say it's one of the greatest debate performances in history. And he's absolutely right. I mean, the media is just absolutely, pro-Biden, pro-Harris. They're out there trying to shout down anybody who's pointing out what Kamala Harris said in the past, even what she said in the primary debates, where she went after Biden and called him a racist. Oh no, that's not an operator. They're the best of friends now. They're partners here. All right, getting more into the to the national news here. Attorney General Barr responds to the Seattle police chief's resignation following the city council cutting police funds. Attorney General William Barr responded to the police department chief Carmen Best's abrupt decision to resign, saying her decision to resign was the result of irresponsible proposals to defund the police from state and local leaders. Now, the vast majority of Americans, including the Black population, do not want the police defunded or reduced. They're already looking around at places where there have been defunded police, or police are being let go, or they're being retasked, and they're seeing the crime go up. They really are. Now, Black Lives Matter publicly supports the looting that's taking place in Chicago right now. And apparently, Chicago police have released a social media post they say appears to be the flashpoint, if you will, that encouraged hundreds of individuals to descend on the city's magnificent Mile shopping district to loot and to riot. Now, they're justifying all of this. Black Lives Matter is justifying all this, saying that looting is reparations. We're finally getting our reparations for slavery. And they're saying that anything they wanted to take, they can take because these businesses have insurance anyway. You know, it'll all be paid for by the insurance companies. Yeah, and how do the insurance companies make their money? With the premiums. And when they have to pay out a lot of money for settlements, the premiums go up. So none of it's free, okay? None of it's free. Somebody is made to pay for this. And again, you know, this idea of reparations, most of those people out there riding in the streets are not only not slaves, other than the 1040 form, they're not even the descendants of slaves. Remember the example I said the other day about Thomas Jefferson and Sally Hemings? Okay, they had kids. Those kids had descendants that live to this very day. Some of them are involved in businesses and, you know, living normal American lives. What can I tell you? So, do all these people owe reparations for being the descendant of a slave owner, or are they owed reparations for being the descendant of a slave? You can see that ultimately this is not really workable. This is not about punishing slave owners for the evils inflicted on the slaves themselves, because they can't track them all down. This is about a political movement to get votes, to buy votes, by promising to take money away from one group of people and giving it to another group of people. And if you look at the history of politics in this country going back 100 years, all elections come down to that at some point. People tend to vote their wallets, and they're going to vote for the party or the candidate or the politician that says, if you elect me, I will take money away from these people over here and I'll give it to you. It doesn't have to be money. I'll take land away from these people over here and I'll give it to you. And that's basically what it is. And all of those people who are out there doing what they're doing because they think they're owed reparations, they're selling themselves. I mean, we can look with loathing and disgust on the slave traders who sold people into slavery. But what do we think about people who are voluntarily doing it to themselves? Yes, give me a 4K television and I'll vote Democratic. Now, if you really think about it, the amount of money involved here, $65 million in property damage so far, is that all the reparations? I mean, you've had your reparations, you've looted, you know, the high-end department stores that you targeted, and you've helped yourselves to their appliances and products and clothing and everything like that. Okay, you've got your reparations. Shut up and go home now. They may have ended the whole reparations argument with this idea that looting represents reparations. Amazing. All right, story coming on out of yourdestinationnow.com. And I've seen it several places. This particular variation, thousands of Americans renounce their citizenship, rented lips, citing Trump and coronavirus as reasons. Now, the reason I mention this version is I've seen several versions of this same story all over the corporate media and the independent media. And the reasons given for the renouncing of citizenship keep changing based on the political biases of whatever that particular platform publisher happens to be. Inevitably, they want to blame Donald Trump. They want to say coronavirus is the reason. They don't want to talk about a lot of the other reasons being given by people, which is this increasing police state, the serious economic declines that are out there. But yeah, Americans don't want to be Americans any longer. I understand that completely. If Claire and I were younger, we'd probably be looking at trying to be expats somewhere else. All right, so let's talk about COVID-19, because Russia has come on out with a vaccine now. It was announced by Vladimir Putin. Apparently his own daughter was part of the test subject, and they're putting it out there. Ben Spencer is out there saying, don't dismiss it just yet, because as soon as it came out, and the Russians named it Sputnik 5, which was kind of thumb in the eye of the United States, a reminder that it was Russia, the Soviet Union, that got into space ahead of the United States. And so now the modern day Russia has gotten into the vaccine space ahead of the United States. And they're sort of rubbing it in here a little bit. But apparently there is concern that this is going to cut into American pharmaceutical companies' opportunity to make a lot of money. And Russia has already received orders from 20 countries for 1 billion doses of this vaccine. They're already out there and running, and American pharmaceutical companies are saying, no, you've got to stop them. You've got to badmouth them. You've got to say this thing is causing sterility and all sorts of other bad things while we get something out there for the needle. And again, it's all about market share. All about the market share and making money. Now, this was a very interesting article. And this came out from, hang on a second, Wired.com. And it basically talks about these scientists who decided they were going to figure out exactly which masks are the best to control coronavirus infections. And they set up this little box with a funnel, and you would talk into the funnel, and of course your breath would be collected by the funnel and projected into the box along with any particulates that you exhaled. And there's a laser beam in there that illuminates the particles, and an iPhone camera that actually would count how many particles came on out during 35 seconds of talking. They did a control where they didn't wear a mask, and then they repeated the experiment with 14 different masks, including the N95s, valved and unvalved, surgical masks, a bandana, a spandex blend neck gaiter, and cotton masks of varying designs. And they discovered, perhaps to nobody's surprise, the mask that was best at blocking the particles was the fitted, unvalved N95, which did not allow any particles through at all. The surgical masks performed similarly well, followed by cotton masks that contained a layer of polypropylene. Most other cotton masks fell into the middle of the pack, along with valved N95 masks, which are designed to protect the user from inhaled environmental threats like wildfire, smoke, and pollution and pathogens, but because they contain an exhalation valve, do little to block potentially infectious particles. The bandana did next to nothing, and that wasn't even the worst. The neck gaiter, made out of a lightweight, breathable fabric favored by runners and cyclists, let through even more particles than the control group, 110% relative to wearing no mask at all. The reason for that is that this particular mask would actually break the particulates into smaller globules, if you will, so that there were more of them. Same volume of material, just aerosolized a little bit more. Now, one of the, shall we say, crude methods that you can use to check the safety and validity of your mask is called the light test. And that is, if you can hold it up and see through it, it's worthless at keeping out the viruses. If you can hold it up to your eye and you can look through it and you can make out the outline of stuff that's in the distance, houses, fences, the dog, whatever, it's really not going to be very effective at keeping viruses out of your lungs and nose and mouth and so forth. So just keep that in mind. And remember, the World Health Organization is out there saying, wear a mask. It's good for the cottage industry. People are making these things at their home. And I have to be very honest. Claire bought a couple of them at the local supermarket. They got a big rack by the checkout stand there of these locally made masks. And I'm all for local, businesses and everything. But just looking at these masks, it's obvious that the fabric that's been used is completely inappropriate at trying to protect somebody from viral infections, like trying to stop mosquitoes, with a chain link fence. It's just not going to happen here. Article that's coming on out from Your Destination Now. Banning travel is 3 times better at controlling the spread of coronavirus than reopening and making people quarantine. Now, as you know, some schools have opened again for the year. As of today, they did in Indiana. There's still a debate when are the rest of the schools going to open. But we're creating what is called a generational catastrophe, in that we're going to have literally a generation of children whose education is even more substandard than it was under Common Core. And by the way, have you heard the latest thing? Teachers are very upset that with all of this online learning from home, parents are finding out what the children are being taught by the public schools, and they're very worried parents might get upset about that. So you think about that one for a while. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
At Republic Broadcasting Network, we have been building our online store. Well, we have been focusing on bringing you the best talk show host in the country. Here at Republic Broadcasting Network, we also want our listeners to have products they can use every day and in times of emergency. We have added new products each week to our store. Your support of this network, plus products at the best prices, is a win-win situation. Check out our new store. Go to our website, republicbroadcasting.org, and click on the online store located at the top of our website. Together, we can continue to grow RBN and help our listeners prepare for the future. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and click on our online store or call us.
800-724-2719 extension 3. 800-724-2719 extension 3.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight.
Welcome back to our show here, and we're still waiting for Biden and Harris to make their appearance, and by the time they finally get up on that stage, everyone's going to be asleep anyway here. I'm ready to tune back to Shark Week. Actually, I'm rooting for the Sharks, by the way. Apparently, de Blasio is announcing a very strict quarantine program from New York City, which includes fines up to $10,000 for anybody breaking New York City's 2-week quarantine rule, and checkpoints are going to be set up at entry points into the city. This was announced last week. And de Blasio said, the idea is we don't want to penalize people. We want to educate them. We want to make sure they're following the rules. Just insane here. All right. Another article, this one coming out from LouRockwell.com. And the article is entitled Hydroxychloroquine One More Time, basically going on about how there has been a track record of success using hydroxychloroquine given with azithromycin and zinc, that it will cure coronavirus. It's been used for 65 years with an outstanding safety record. It is safe, but it's under attack for 2 reasons. One is that Trump recommended it based on Dr. Zelenko's successful cures. Consequently, Democrats and the prostitutes have allied with Big Pharma and demonized hydroxychloroquine, hoping to use the false claim that it causes heart attacks to discredit Trump and reduce his chance of re-election. They're playing with your health for political reasons. And that right there, I mean, to me, I'm disgusted with the entire system when they think that's an appropriate thing to do. Oh yeah, well, we're going to mess around with the health of the American people because we think we're going to win power that way. Amazing. And of course, the other reason is that a 65-year-old medication can't be used to make massive profits by the big pharmaceutical corporations. They want something that can be patented, that can give them market exclusivity, that they can use to basically charge whatever they want because there won't be any competition. Hydroxychloroquine, it's available in generic. So anyway, another article, this one coming from naturalnews.com, government conducting clinical trials to learn how best to manipulate Americans to take COVID-19 shots. And it starts out saying the percentage of Americans who plan to get the new COVID-19 vaccine continues to fall. I'm certainly one of them. I'm not going to get it. Yahoo News and YouGovernment polled Americans in early May. Only 55% said they would get the new vaccines. The number shrank to 50% later that month and fell to 46% in early July. By the end of July, the number had fallen to a mere 42%. Nobody trusts the pharmaceutical companies. Nobody trusts the government. That's really what it comes down to. We feel we're being lied to. We don't know what's going to be in those vaccines. We do know that if the vaccine companies make a mistake, they can't be sued for it. That's got a lot of people very worried about it. Apparently, the government is involving Yale University, try and figure out the best messaging to persuade Americans to take the COVID-19 vaccine. Why do people need to be persuaded? Because of the lack of trust. So they're going to go on out there and say, well, maybe we can do celebrity endorsements or appeals to patriotism. They're trying to figure out what is going to get everybody lined up with their shirt sleeve rolled up or whatever it is they're going to use to administer the vaccine here. All right. We're still looking at that scandal over in New York about the nursing home deaths. And according to new federal data, the nursing home deaths at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic may have been undercounted by as much as 2/3. Already the highest in the U.S., the tally likely omits thousands. That was handled badly. And was it sheer stupidity? Or did somebody say, well, we'll empty out those nursing homes and save a bunch of money that way? Okay. Still waiting for Biden and Harris to hold their joint event. Boy, if they can't be punctual, then they don't deserve to hold office. You say you're going to be there at a certain time, they're going to be a certain time. I'm looking at my email box here and it says, let's see, people from India are legally considered Caucasian, according to the Supreme Court of the United States. The case of U.S. versus Bhagat Singh Thind, the Supreme Court deemed Asian Indians ineligible for citizenship because U.S. law only allowed free whites to become natural citizens. This was in 1923. I'm not sure that applies anymore. I mean, look at all the H-1B visas that are coming in here. All right, Donald Trump is going to sign an executive order, or he's already signed an executive order requiring the U.S. government to buy essential drugs from American companies. They want to basically break their dependence on foreign manufacturers. I think that's a good thing, maybe, except how's it going to influence pharmaceutical prices for the end user? All right, we're going to take another break for commercials. We'll be right back after these few words.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
The Republic Broadcasting Network late night premiere show of Red Pill Hardcore is hosted by activists that want to hear from you, the listeners. So that you can get involved in the activism, please call in at 800-313-9443 at 10 p.m. to enter the discussion. To book yourself as a guest, call our studio at 202-657-5715 or contact RBN staff. Remember, keep it real and take the red pill.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Visit us online at whatreallyhappened.com. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
Welcome back to our show here and getting to the international news here. Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan last week unveiled a new map of the country, which showed the entire disputed region of Jammu and Kashmir as Pakistan territory. The move came a day ahead of the first anniversary of India's unilateral decision to scrap Kashmir's special status, which guaranteed it partial autonomy. The new map marks the Himalayan region as Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, unlike its former status as disputed territory. In an address to the nation, Khan said, "Today is a historic day for Pakistan as the cabinet and opposition and Kashmiri leadership endorse the new map. Kashmir will become part of Pakistan. This map is the first step toward it." So there's another area in which we could see coming to outright conflict in the very, very near future. Much of international politics these days, where nations are watching each other, was brought into being on the idea that by every nation being sort of constrained by every other nation on earth, which was the function of the United Nations, that these messy global wars could be avoided. But I don't think it's in human nature to avoid these wars. And it certainly feels like we're headed toward one. It really, really does. Okay, and we're still looking at an empty stage over there in Delaware, in Wilmington, where Harris and Biden were supposed to come on out and wave at the empty chairs. And they're just going on and talking about past vice presidents and the tasks that lie ahead for Kamala Harris. Normally, we'd say, okay, she's the VP slot. She gets her moment in the sun, then she goes away, and that will be that. But again, because the majority of Americans do feel that Biden will not make it through his first 4 years, yeah, Kamala Harris becomes a major player here. All righty. Taiwan sends Marines to reinforce the South China Sea outpost amid reports China plans to practice invading it. There's another flashpoint we're looking at. I don't know. What is it in human nature that we not only seem to desire war, we're willing to go off and fight it, even at great risk to our personal health and safety? Obviously, in times past, there was some kind of survival benefit there, where our tribe would go on over and, you know, kill all the men of your tribe and capture all the women and children, grab your food and bring it back to our village and everything. But in the nuclear age, I don't think that's an appropriate behavior. I think it's one of the instincts of humankind that needs to be discouraged in the future. And yet it does seem to be our primary business. Maybe that's why intelligent civilizations out in the universe don't bother visiting us anymore, because our primary occupation seems to be killing each other. Who needs to get involved with that? All right, let's talk about the economic news here. And the U.S. now has about 154 trillion of unfunded promises to pay. The unfunded mandates, that's 7.5 times the gross domestic product, will be at $30 trillion in debt by early next year. Then adding 1.5 to 2 trillion per year thereafter, if things go good. If things go bad, like more war, the debt will definitely be much higher than that. Bankruptcies are almost up to 2009 levels. Bank credit availability continues to dry up. The Fed is increasingly the only game in town. Now, as you know, the moratorium on evictions has expired. There was a plan to extend the moratorium that was part of the new Coronavirus Relief Act, but that's still thrashing around Congress here. And apparently debt not paid back will crush the tenants. It'll crush the landlords. It'll crush the banks. It could even trigger a cascade of derivatives faults. And that would bring the whole system crashing down. You have to do something here. Okay, if the government wants to be in charge of keeping this country going, they have to step in and do something. Either they have to be extending the eviction moratorium, or they have to be handing out more money so rents can get paid by people who've lost their jobs to the coronavirus pandemic. I mean, from where I'm sitting, everything the government has done so far has been a token gesture. Here's a little bit of money. You know, here's a little bit of sympathy. Here's a little bit of help. And then they're not looking at the core issue here. Now, New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio is threatening to lay off 22,000 city workers if the feds don't give New York City yet another bailout. Where does de Blasio think all this money is going to come from? Yeah, the Federal Reserve can basically create it out of thin air, but it's always a loan at interest. They're not just creating money out of thin air to give it away. That's not how private central banks work. Federal Reserve's got to be happy as all get out there. They're plunging the nation and its people into hopelessly unpayable debt faster than ever before. And at some point, they're going to basically move to collect on that debt, and they're going to say, oh, well, you're not allowed to just print up money out of thin air to pay us back. So we'll just take these factories, and, you know, they're now bank property, and, you know, these flats of apartments, they're now bank property, and these shopping malls, they're now bank property, and, you know, doesn't quite cover all the debt, but we'll be in a banker's paradise where the banks own everything and everybody is working as hard as they can to pay unpayable debt. It's the 2021 version of the company town. You remember the folk song, 16 tons. I owe my soul to the company store. It was a very abusive situation. You'd get lured to work out on the railroad with this promise of very high pay, which sounded really good. And once you were out there, you discovered the company, the railroad company, owned everything. They owned the bank, they owned the railroad, they owned the tools, they owned the store. And it didn't matter how much they paid you. The cost of living was kept higher than that. So you had to go into debt at the company store just to get what you needed just to live on. And as long as you were in debt to that company store, you were not allowed to leave. It was a trap, a debt trap. And they're getting ready to do the exact same thing to the nation as a whole. Global debt rose to $258 trillion in the first quarter, or a record 331% of the world's gross domestic product. Gold ended above $2,000 an ounce for the first time in history, and the dollar could be a crash risk if the U.S. loses credibility. Well, that's already happening. That's already happening. All right, we're going to go ahead and open the phone lines here, and we're going to start with Al in Canada. Hello, Al. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. Name one central bank that hasn't lost credibility.
No, they're talking about the U.S. as a whole losing credibility. And yeah, that's happening right now. I mean, private central banks.
It's happening everywhere.
Yes, it is. It's all coming apart.
Oh, yeah. Yep, it's all falling apart. So you just mentioned something about there really is no future as far as the government stepping in and saying, well, we did this to you people, so we're going to have to pay you to sit at home. Canada, we have this thing called CERB, and it's $1,000 every 2 weeks, Canadian, mind you, right? So
yeah,
that's probably like $2,700 a month, American, like in Canadian dollars. So
yeah.
But here's the thing, here's the drawback. Well, about a month ago, they admitted that the deficit so far is going to be about $343 billion. It's probably now just over 400, and it's going to be hitting 500, so $500 billion. If your government were to do the same, you would be running at like a $5 or $6 trillion deficit. That is insane. So when is this charade going to end? Because didn't Dr. Fauci the other day say that about 50% of the population naturally has immunity towards this coronavirus?
Yes.
He just cut the mortality rate in half, right there.
Yes.
Just basically took the knees right out of this whole scandemic. Who cares who tests positive for COVID? I don't really care. If half the population tests positive for COVID, what does it really mean? It doesn't mean anything.
Well, let's get the other half back.
Half the population are female. Pardon?
I said, let's get the other half of the population back to work then.
Yeah. Like this is nonsense. Half the population is male. Well, we already know that. Half the population is female. Yeah, we already know that. So basically they shut this whole thing down, and I'm convinced now this was planned because they knew the economy was going for a crap.
Yeah.
You can't keep this kind of this stupid nonsense up. Like you always say, Mike, you cannot create the nation's currency as a loan at interest, and it cannot be sustainable. It's not. It's not sustainable. The debt just keeps getting bigger.
True.
So now we're at what, 0.25% interest rates? We're creating the currency.
Yeah.
At what point are we going to go into negative?
It's already happening.
Where they would actually pay you to take out a loan. Of course, that's not how it works. But a lot of people would think that.
Well, look how they suckered people in back in 2008 with the mortgage-backed securities, and they needed to front load that whole system with new mortgages. So they were luring people in with teaser rates, variable rates, and they were giving mortgages to people who really didn't meet the requirements for security.
Yeah.
And the whole system almost fell apart.
Well, Mike, it's still apart because the pensions have not recovered from that.
No.
At some point, this is all offloaded somewhere, and it's the end user, which is, us.
Yes.
I don't even know. I remember hearing about something a couple weeks ago where they were Basically, government pensions, they don't exist anymore. They really don't. And a lot of private pensions are, number one, underfunded,
Yes.
and number two, invested in money losing schemes. I mean, it's all a money losing scheme if they can't doctor the interest rates somehow back when interest rates were kind of normal. You know, where a central bank would have like a 4 or 5, maybe even a 6% interest rates. I mean, you could work with that. Can't do it anymore. There's nowhere to go. You got to go negative. It's not possible. And people think that, oh, they're going to pay me to have a loan. No, they're not. They're going to just start skimming off of everybody's bank accounts, assuming you have any cash in there, and then they'll make it illegal.
Yep.
And look what's happening right now. Look, what a lot of places up in Canada, they won't accept cash, Mike.
Yep. We're
What
starting to
does
see
that tell
that
you?
here in the
Well, I
U.S.
guess it's working. Yeah, I guess it's working. Let alone that our currency is treated with an antimicrobial. It's cleaner than these debit cards. People are in there, and they're in. Mike, I work in the food industry, so
Yes.
I'm very aware of these things. People are in their cars on their cell phones, right? Picking their nose, picking their toes, whatever they're doing, touching all this stuff, and they're touching their phone. Then they go into these supermarkets where they have a mask on. They may or may not use the hand sanitizer.
Yes.
But in the end, they grab their phones and they start tinkering with it. So everything that they had on their hands in the car is now on their hands again. Or sorry, what was on their cell phone is now on their hands again. And then they reach for that card, they're touching it, they're shoving it in, right?
Yep.
I don't have to go any further with this. It's a joke. And that's why when I go to a supermarket, I sanitize my hands when I walk in, and I sanitize them when I walk out. Mike, I've been doing that ever since they offered free hand sanitizer. If they're going to offer it, I'll use it. I don't want to let them down, So anyway, that's that's kind of like where we are with it up here. I mean, everybody's just fed up with this nonsense. Some people are. The young folk, they love it.
Yeah.
They love it, Big Brother. But people like my age or a little younger, we're sick and tired of this.
Yes.
This is enough's enough. And 87% of all the deaths in Canada happened in old age homes.
Yes.
There's a good statistic for you. That is brutal. It's brutal what's going on here. That's it. That's all I got, Mike. That's my rant. I appreciate
all right. Well, thank you for
hearing
the
it
rant.
for me.
Thank you for the rant. Thank you for the phone call. We're going to switch over to Jim in Illinois. Hello, Jim. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
Well, Michael, I'm like you. I am so disgusted with the Democrats and especially some of the Republicans. But before Biden did his thing yesterday with Miss Harris, I was telling myself, you know what, I might vote for Biden just to get Trump out of there. I'm at the point now, since he picked Miss Harris, I'm leaning toward Trump. At least I know what I'm going to be getting from Trump.
Yes.
So that's where I stand. Biden, and like you stated a few minutes ago, can you imagine if he became president and something happened to him and she became president? He would be the end of the country. I mean, it's just, what do you do when you don't like either party and your nation is going down the dumpster, and it seems like there's no leadership out there.
Yeah, that's the situation we're in right now.
Right,
we
and
have a
everyone-
lot of posturing, we have a lot of speech making, but we don't have any real leadership.
Right, and now how can women, be happy about Miss Harris? This is a lady that used her vagina to gain political power.
Yep.
You
but
know,
that's
they talk about-
empowerment.
Say it again, please.
That's empowerment.
Well, you're right about that. And they talk about Donald Trump's, past history. I mean, you have to look at her. But if you do that, you're going to be called a sexist, a racist, and everything else under the sun. But I'm not happy with Biden or Harris. And again, like I stated, at least I know where Donald Trump's coming from.
Yeah.
So, well, Michael, you take care, and we just have to, get on our knees and pray for this country and also the rest of the world. So.
Well,
right,
I figure if I'm on my knees, then I'm really less effective than when I'm standing up there with my fists in the air. We got to take another break for commercials. We got callers waiting on the line, and we will be right back after these few words from our sponsor.
What would you say if I told you we have a new tool that will increase production and lower maintenance costs for your meat processing company? And it would pay for itself in just 6 weeks.
When pigs fly!
The new EaseOff Model Easy 4 replaces old spring-style carcass droppers and is faster, safer, and more reliable. The EaseOff lowers or lifts 1,000 pounds to or from your rail automatically using our remote control.
Sounds expensive. Can I afford it?
Can you afford not to try the EaseOff? It installs fast with just 3 bolts in place of your current dropper. The effortless operation will reduce fatigue and injuries, speed up your line, eliminate downtime, and increase profit.
How can I order my EaseOff?
Go to easeoff.com, EAZEOFF.com, and hurry because we are offering $200 off on the new Easy 4 for a limited time. Easeoff.com. We make pigs fly. Cows too. EaseOff LLC, Summersville, Missouri, 417-932-6419.
Hey, honey, I'm home. I grabbed the newspaper on the way home. Look at all the news today.
The newspaper? Don't you know that all you're going to get in the newspaper is propaganda, twisted news, and false information?
Honey, this is a national newspaper. It has to be true.
Ha! For some reason, a majority of the population believe anything the mainstream media tells them. The newspaper does not give out the important attention on what's happening to this country and news that affects our daily lives. Say, does that newspaper mention anything about the North American Union?
No, not that I can see.
I didn't think so. You need to go to www.newswithviews.com, where truth is more important than political correctness. That's www.newswithviews.com. Hey, don't throw that away. We can use that in the birdcage.
Okay, move over. Let me start reading newswithviews.com.
The truth? Read all about it at newswithviews.com. Newswithviews.com, where reality shatters illusion.
Extend your life with Extendovite, a 7-herb combination made from garlic, cayenne, bilberry, hawthorn, ginkgo biloba, valerian, and milk thistle. Each herb was chosen for their abilities to help improve irregular heartbeats, chest pain, lower cholesterol, as well as normalize blood pressure and clean and strengthen arteries, plus much, much more. Doctors have taken people off of some or all of their pills just because they believe their patients got better while taking Extendovite. Get the dependability of Extendovite. Just see how you feel in 6 months. A 2-month supply of either capsules or liquid is only $69.95 plus shipping and handling. Call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Welcome to What Really Happened Radio. Visit us online at whatreallyhappened.com. And now, set your eyes on the future and let's consider what really happened.
Welcome back to our show here, and we are still waiting for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to take the stage here at Wilmington, Delaware. A lot of people in face masks running around here, a lot of photographers. But okay, finally, they're walking out and they're getting this thing underway. And so, of course, I'm going to not watch them and go back to the phones here to Mark in North Carolina. Hello, Mark. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, Mike, we're talking about China again, about the possibility of war.
Yes.
You know, Mike, it's crazy. and as ridiculous so many of our leaders are, I don't think they're that crazy. At least I pray not, because there's no way we're going to beat China in a conventional war.
No.
In their territory. They would pretty much destroy the entire Navy. It would be thousands of sailors, Marines killed. An invasion, try to invade China would involve, total destruction probably of our military as a whole. Okay, in a conventional war.
China has China has more people in uniform than the entire population of the United States.
Exactly, and look at the population of this country right now, Mike. How we're cowering, and our people are cowering just about under their beds.
I'm not cowering under my bed. I'm going downtown and getting my reparations by smashing a store window and stealing a 4K television.
Okay, but you expect these types of people to be able to fight a war against a well-disciplined, powerful army like China, let alone Russia?
Well, all you got to do is, shut off the 4K television and tell them China did it.
Yeah, but then again, if it gets to that, next step, of course, would be nuclear.
Yes.
And that would probably be the end of the world as we know it. I mean, we're talking, so are these people really that crazy? I know a lot of them are prescription medication, prescription drugs and stuff like that, Mike, but are they really that crazy? Don't they understand that they would get wiped out also? Matter of fact, one bomb in Washington, D.C. would take care of all of these politicians right there and then. The White House to the Capitol, the whole bunch. You would think they'd understand that. But it's hard for me to believe they're that crazy that they're really going to get us into World War III with either China, Russia, or both. I mean, it's just nuts. Mike, I was listening to John Rappaport earlier on InfoWars.
Yes.
You know who he is, right?
Yes.
He seems to think this whole virus is nothing. This isn't even a virus. This is something they picked up that they decided for various different symptoms and stuff like that, made it up, and to scare people and try to get control of the entire population. And I'm beginning to believe that's the case. That there really is no virus. Well, there is a virus. I mean, it's the cold, various colds that we've had over the centuries, and some kind of a flu. And this is what they're basically working on. I'm really starting to begin to believe this, Mike. These testing, the stupid testing they have, is absolutely worth nothing because it picks up whatever you've had, any kind of a coronavirus you may have had in the last year or two, okay? Which is called colds, flus, and everything else. So that's just what I think, Mike. So anyway,
all right. Well,
anybody else has anything to say?
All right, stay on the line. I'm going to come back to you. We got to take a break for station identification, and we'll be right back.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
The Republic Broadcasting Network late night premiere show of Red Pill Hardcore is hosted by activists that want to hear from you, the listeners. So that you can get involved in the activism, please call in at 800-313-9443 at 10 p.m. to enter the discussion. To book yourself as a guest, call our studio at 202-657-5715 or contact RBN staff. Remember, keep it real and take the Red Pill.
You're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network.
Because you can handle the truth.
What Really Happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
And welcome back to our show, hour number 2. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. Getting on back to Mark in North Carolina. I'm in agreement. It would be insane for us to go to war, to full-on war with China. But I think the U.S. agenda is basically to trip off a war regarding Hong Kong, Taiwan, and the South China Sea. Excuse me. In the assumption, yeah, I'm sorry, I had to pull down my cough switch here for a second. In the assumption that China would back down in front of the U.S. military might. I don't think they will, and that's because I think I have a somewhat firmer grasp on the Asian mindset than our current political leadership in Washington, D.C.
Of course, especially since China is a superpower, and we're talking in their backyard. It's not like they're at the, not there on the Gulf Coast or something like that. I mean, if they were off the coast of Texas or something like that, yeah, they'd probably back down. Sure, but we're the equivalent of being on the coast of Texas or something like that, or even North Dakota.
We're on their doorstep.
Yeah, and they're not going to back down to that. They're going to say, "You want a war? We'll give you a war," and it'll be horrible. It would be just horrible. Like I said, if it would be conventional, it would be a total disaster. If it would be nuclear, obviously, it could probably would be the end of the planet as we know it today. It wouldn't just be between the United States and China. Russia would get into it. NATO would probably get into it. A couple of them are nuclear powers. Israel might start flinging a few of their weapons around. India and Pakistan might start flinging theirs around also.
Yes.
And it probably would be the end of the planet as we know it. We might have something left like maybe, like Mad Max type of world, or what was a movie with Denzel Washington, Book of Eli type of world.
Yes.
But that's pretty much what would be left if we'd even have that. If it wasn't just rats and roaches running the world. But that's basically and that's what we're facing, Mike. It's a shame. I mean, unfortunately, we've got a lot of sick people in charge. It's not like during the Cold War when you had some rationality there. Okay, you had imagine if you had what you got now when with Cuban Missile Crisis. The nukes would have probably been flying right there and then. You didn't have two rational human beings facing. Yeah. If you had somebody like a Trump in there now, or a Biden, or what's her name? I don't know. What's the Harris, Biden or Harris or something like that?
Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris. Yeah. If you had people like that in charge, or like I said, Trump, and the other side, well, Putin is rational, but let's say you had some other irrational guy in charge of Russia or something, and it doesn't matter if you have one rational guy. If you got an irrational superpower leader of a superpower like a Trump, Biden, or a Harris, you're in trouble. Nukes will start flying, and that's the end of the story. I even think the Chinese leader, I think, is rational, more rational than any of our people today. So we can just pray for the best, Mike. That's what we can do. I know you said you're an atheist before, and myself, I believe in God, but not the way what do you call it again? The Abrahamic religions believe in it. I have my own belief in him. It's kind of like the Great Spirit type God. That God is. I still believe there is a higher power up there, and I pray maybe that he'll give us some sanity, or maybe we really will have space aliens come down and stop it at the last minute. Supposedly, if you watch sometimes the History Channel, we had a case like that back in the 1960s when aliens completely completely stopped our missiles from working. There's a captain there. He still appears once in a while. Captain Salas. who said he was there when it happened, and everything was shut down, and there was a UFO sighted. Maybe that's a whole. I don't know. All I can say is things are very bleak, Mike. That's all I can say.
They are.
I'm just
They
afraid
are.
of that.
These are very dark times we're having to live through right now. All right. Well, Mark, I'll tell you what, we're
Hi,
going to
Mike.
let you go. The phone lines are loading up here. We're going to switch over to Dan in Washington State. Hello, Dan. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Thanks, Mike. Two issues on my mind. I wanted to tell everyone there's a video called Head of the Snake. I don't know if you've seen that. It was done. It's an interview by Whitney Webb about Epstein, the relations to the Clintons, the Trumps, Les Wexner, the Rothschilds. It goes
Yeah.
into all of it. So I would highly recommend that video to everyone. I didn't believe a lot of the stuff about Trump during the election, but I do kind of believe he was involved in a lot of that. So it's a good video. Either way, it's on YouTube.
Okay. Hello?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, you keep cutting out.
Oh, sorry about that. Am I okay now? Anyway, what do you think about Belarus right now?
Well, I'm watching it very, very closely, and my concern is that, we're heading into an election in this country where they're not even trying to hide the fact that they're going to rig it with the mail-in ballots, and that if Biden pulls an upset victory over Donald Trump, it could result in rioting in the streets of America. I mean, we've already got rioting in the streets of America. It's not being reported all that much by corporate media, but we could see literally an explosion across the country of civil unrest.
Yeah, I was irritated about Pompeo because he sticks his nose into it and he sides with the protesters. And if about COVID, the president of Belarus said this is all just a plan by the rich people, basically, to just suck up all the money in the world. And then he was the one that came out and said, this COVID's kind of a hoax. And I just think it's fishy that, now all of a sudden he's got these protests and Pompeo saying, leave the protesters alone, and you can see him kind of going after this guy, I think, for that, maybe. I guess we'll see.
Time will solve that mystery, but yeah, we're heading into a very this election is going to be one for the history books. There's no two ways about that. And like I said, they're not even trying to hide the fact that they're going to rig this election. The question is, can we overcome the vote rigging by sheer force of conservative vote numbers?
Well, I hope a leader like Putin or Belarus comes and says, hey, leave the protesters alone when they're all marching up into Washington, D.C. and see what happens. It'd be funny. So,
It would be funny if
I don't
it
know.
wasn't so tragic.
I know. All right. Well, have a good day.
All right. Well, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go and switch over to Peter in Los Angeles. Hello, Peter. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, hi, Mike. I agree with just about everything everybody said here, but I don't think that if either side wins, Mike, neither. I know for one, I will not accept the Biden win with the mail-in ballots and knowing that he's a total crook and everything, and also that he was circumventing the last election along with Obama. Right?
Yes.
He was in the meeting on January 5th. The guy's a traitor. The other thing is they certainly didn't accept the results of the 2016 election. We've been intermittently rioting ever since. So
Yes.
it's going to be on. It's going to be on. You were saying when Mark called in, you guys were talking about China. I was involved with a study, tertiarily involved with a study in the military that was done alongside the U.S. Army, the Germans, and the Brits, done in the late 70s, early 80s. And it was how to utilize the upper 10%, the 1A, when you come into the military, you take an Armed Forces qualifications test. It's an IQ test. And the upper 10% are 1As, the highest, 1Bs, take you down to about the 90th percentile. And then there's 2A, 2B, then 3A, 3, it goes all the way down to 4A and 4B, which are idiots. And really, at any rate, one of the findings in this, and it was the goal was to find out a company commander of maybe 200, people, 150 people, might have 4 or 5 or 6 of these guys under him. How to best utilize them. One of the things that stood out, Mike, was that in a 4-man tank crew, if you had three 1As, for instance, 4 1As as one unified tank crew was a get-going, really high-performing tank crew. But if you had 3 1As and 1 2A, high average, 80th percentile or something, it degraded the performance of that vehicle more than 25%. So that one lower than 1A guy degraded the performance more than what his, more than the 25%. Yeah, at any rate, that was one of the findings. So the result was they say keep all your 1As together, as a fire brigade, so that you have one totally effective small force. But why am I saying that? Well, about 10% of the population are 1As and 1Bs. That's the same thing with China, with 1.5 billion people. And they could field an army. That means that they've got 150 million 1A, 1Bs. And they could easily field an army. Half of that will be male, and then half of those will be military-age male. So, 10 million 1As, versus our tiny army of 455,000 that right now that is made up of morons, really, a lot of it. And this is from a former military guy. There's a lot of morons in there. We've lowered the standards tremendously. Taken together with the manufacturing thing that we've talked about, and you've said it over and over again, but manufacturing and morale, everything else, we would get our posteriors handed to us in a conventional thing. And I've sent you, by the way, in the past, think tank studies of what a war would be like with China. And everybody's unified. We couldn't hold the Western Pacific conventionally. No. I mean, we wouldn't be able to hold the Philippines. We'd move, we'd have to. Guam would be virtually untenable. We really have to pull back to the Marshalls and even Hawaii. And if we're going to fight them all, it would be, in the Straits of Malacca, down by Indonesia or in the Persian Gulf, and try to get them, interdict them at sea, because we can't take them on. Of course, Korea will be gone. It would be awful. We would get our butts handed unless it was nuclear, and of course, we would go nuclear. So, anyways, but I totally agree with what you said in the opening that the banks are going to end up owning everything.
Yes.
And every day that the economy remains shut down because of this ridiculous virus means that more and more privately owned companies are going to go under and will be swallowed up at 10 cents on the dollar by the people who can print money out of nothing.
Yes.
And in the end, the people that can print money out of nothing will come out of this, and they will be the company store, as you said.
Yes.
And who are those people who can print money out of nothing? Well, they're the same people that are telling you we got to stay, locked down in COVID. The same people that own the media. Listen, it's seamless here. It's seamless. So at any rate, it is what it is, Mike. That's my 2 cents. But I thought I'd share that study with everybody.
That is an interesting study, and you're absolutely right. They try and get our most intelligent young people get put on the front lines there, and in a way, it's almost devolving the human race that we put our best minds out there on the front lines to get killed. Anyway, Peter, thank you very much for the phone call. We're going to switch over to Jerry in Oregon. Hello, Jerry. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
I'd like to talk about the masks and stuff. I walk to work every day, and I notice that I find a lot of masks on the ground that people either just throw away or they blew out of the car. then so are they used masks? So could that actually possibly contribute to the spread of the COVID itself?
Well, there's been a study
What do
done
you think?
recently that shows that when you have a used mask, it actually holds a much higher concentration of viral particles of all kinds than just an equivalent sample of air. So if you see a mask
Yeah.
that's on the ground there, normally I'd say pick it up, put it in the local trash can. But in this case, I would say just leave it where it is. You don't want to risk touching it.
Yeah, that's my comment. And it's like, yeah, we're seeing more and more of these masks. Well, I live here on the Oregon coast, and a lot of people are vacationing here, and then I'm seeing more and more of them. And so the masks themselves could actually be helping to spread the virus.
Yes, they could.
That was my only comment that I had to contribute here.
All right. Well, thank you for the comment. It's a valuable contribution. And we're going to switch over to Tom in Florida. Hello, Tom. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, good day, Michael. Now that we know that a chameleon's in the VP slot, her father was a slave owner in Jamaica. Camilla's father, great-grandfather. Camilla, or great-great-grandfather, was a slaveholder. She's an Indian, black, whatever else she is. We don't know. We'll figure it all out. She did get Willie Brown to divorce his wife. She was an adulteress. She was committing adultery with Willie Brown, and he ended up divorcing his wife. She was taking care of him in San Francisco. So we're going to find out. This dirt's going to come out on Camilla. We'll see what happens to Camilla. And also, Mike, what I really want to get into now is look what's going on in Chicago. How much more crap is the majority in this country going to take with all these BLM, Antifa scumbags, swine punks, burning our cities up, trying to tear up our Constitution? How much more is it going to take? It's going to take a disaster. But here's another thing, Mike. Did you hear the guy that was talking earlier on one of the shows, talking about the Russians have devised an atomic weapon the size of a cigarette pack? They use red mercury to detonate it. I wouldn't doubt it.
It's right out of a movie.
Well, I tell you what, I think the Russians do have nuclear warheads probably the size of maybe a half-gallon jug or a gallon jug. I wouldn't doubt it, because what's going on now, China's getting real bold with their military, making their moves around in the China Sea there and all that. I believe the Chinese don't care, Mike, if they lose 700 million of their population. I've heard it in the USA paper years ago that the generals in China don't care if you wipe out half their population. We'll be doing them a favor. And in the meantime, they ain't got enough rice and stuff to feed their population. They got to rely on the United States and Russia for food. So I don't know if that's true or not. It wouldn't surprise me. Remember, India is right next door, and India's also got a population that's going to succeed China's very soon, if not right now. And so I believe those two are going to go at it. Pakistan, all those countries have nuclear warheads. One little spark's going to light it off. The Chinese military already killed 30 Indians at the border. They hacked them to death with big, long knives, bayonets. You heard about that?
Yes.
So I think it's going to percolate between India and China. And then the United States or Russia are going to give out. You know what, Mike, though? I got to say, Russia is a Caucasian nation. Russia is a nation where they call it from the Caucasus region of Russia. You get the word Caucasians. I don't believe the Russians really want to blow up the United States. Like, I don't believe even Hitler wanted to attack England like he could have. I think Hitler could have wiped England right out if he really wanted to, but he didn't. He backed off attacking England, which he could have really, it took him over. And I don't believe the Russians and the United States wants a war with Russia. I don't believe it, because we're the two biggest populations with Caucasians in the world, the United States and Russia. So why would we want to kill each other off for the yellow man, China? I don't know if I buy into that, Mike. But let's go back to Chicago, Mike. $70 million was looted over the weekend. All the drawbridges are up. All the bridges are up in Chicago. Okay, they looted all the stores, and I don't think none of them stores are going to come back. Did the stores in Detroit ever come back? It took 50 years for the stores to actually start coming back in Detroit after the '68 riot. Am I correct?
Yes.
You know why they called the houses in Detroit built like a brick? You know what? The house.
Yes.
Because those houses in Detroit could withstand a Category 5 tornado. They were the strongest built houses in the United States. In Detroit. Oh, hang on.
Yeah, hang on. Going to put you on hold. Going to come right back to you after these words from our sponsors.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
Some are maxed out all their credit cards. Some are working 2 jobs and living in cars. Minimum wage won't pay for a roof, won't pay for a drink. If you gotta have proof, just try it yourself, Mr. CEO. See how far $5.15 an hour will go. Take a part-time job at one of your stores. I bet you can't make it here anymore.
Welcome back to our show here, and a reminder that whatreallyhappened.com and Republic Broadcasting Network are in a perpetual state of fundraising. And once again, the postal address where you can send a check, money order, or if you prefer anonymity cash, is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. The phone number where you can make a credit or debit card donation is 800-724-2719, extension 3. The network thanks you. Okay, we're going to go back to the phones here to Tom in Florida. And Tom, if you could just sort of pick up right where you left off.
Well, yeah, Michael, I was talking about Detroit was the richest city. We probably won World War II, and they ended up having a riot there, and they burned up the city. But it came back slowly. It took decades. But, you know, Mike, back then they were cracking heads, these cops, and they weren't allowing this nonsense. You know, here in we had the riots here in Miami in the 80s, 81. There were 600 people wounded, and 300 of those were wounded because they were throwing in bottles and Molotov cocktails at police, and the police didn't take the crap. So they were fighting back. Now these cops are standing down. Trump, Eisenhower, even Reagan or Carter would never allow this. To allow these cities to get burnt down is unbelievable, and hardly any resistance. Yeah, they had 120 arrests in Chicago for looting. But come on, that Kim Foxx is letting these people right back out with Jesse Smollett and all this nonsense that's going on. Smollett got off when he was trying to start a race war, and now it took Floyd to start it. And Floyd was he was in jail for 9.5 years, dealing probably fentanyl. He had to do why he had all that fentanyl on him, I don't know why. He kept screaming he couldn't breathe. I mean, yeah, Chauvin was a murderer, I guess. But this guy, how many people did Floyd kill? Maybe with fentanyl, dealing fentanyl, Mike.
Yes.
And another thing is, getting back to what I want to say also is, I'm looking at the rioting and all that, and it's the media is like pumping this up, like continue on. All these leftist networks are just like keep it going till the election. I mean, you got Kamala Harris, who here in South Florida is calling Joe out for being a racist. She's telling him that he's too old to be president. And the main thing, Mike, did you hear what she said about the woman who said that Biden raped her and groped her, and Kamala Harris was in agreement that Biden did do that, but now they don't want to show that tape.
Yeah. Oh no, they're sanitizing the whole the relationship. I mean, Harris is on TV now doing her speechification, and I got to tell you, one of the things I always recommend people do when a politician is making a speech on TV, just turn down the volume. Don't listen to their words. Watch their face and their body language. And I got to tell you, Harris's lack of sincerity is just coming on through. Read those cue cards, baby. Okay. Anything else there?
Michael, Michael, she was married to a Jewish guy, and I seen the kid. She has a kid, and this guy here's another left-wing kook. I mean, this is like a giant cabal, Mike. And when the one guy talking about the mask, he made a great point, Mike. All these multiple millions of masks with all this coronavirus, supposedly, if these people had corona, so bleed in the mask, and then they throw the mask in the garbage can, is not that now spreading the disease itself? You got,
yes.
Say you got 10 million people with the coronavirus, and they breathe into these masks, and then the masks are throwing into big, giant, small trash wars. I mean, what are these germs doing? And I like to call Dustin hasn't called in a while. I want to hear his thought about this. I want to hear Dustin call in and tell me about the mask. Because when you got multiple hundreds of millions of masks being thrown in the dump, what are they doing? Are they incinerating them, or are the germs flying everywhere? Maybe that's why we're getting contaminated, because the masks, the people are throwing them in the garbage can or dumping them in dumpsters or whatever, and there's multiple millions of them. That's where the coronavirus keeps spreading. The mask ain't doing nothing. They're causing more damage. In my book, now they say they have a pill, Mike, 12 cents a piece. They're 12 cents a piece, and they knock the coronas right out. Have you heard about that?
I've heard about it. I'm waiting to see if it's true or not.
Well, we'll see, Mike. It's going to be really interesting what's going to happen here, because this election here, it's all about the Supreme Court, like I told you yesterday, Mike. If we allow this bumbling Biden, this buffoon, who's got a brain of a 99-year-old man, to be president, our country's in doom nation. It's a ruined nation. We're Cuba. We're Cuba right here, Mike.
Yep.
But Mike, when you're in Cuba, you know what 90% of the cops are? You ever see the movie John Travolta, A White Man's Burden? I think you should watch that movie.
I haven't seen it. I'll chase that down.
I want you to chase that movie down, and every one of your callers, and watch that movie, White Man's Burden. It's exactly what's happening here in this country. John Travolta made a movie, and they kept it quiet. It's called White Man's Burden. And look at Cuba, Mike. 90% of the cops and all over that Cuban island are black.
Yes.
Black. And they're not, and they're not, I mean, they're about 40% of the population over there, but 90% of their Communist Party affiliation are black. The cops, the ones that, the enforcers. Okay? And I want you to watch White Man's Burden, Mike, and tell me about it this week or next week when you watch it.
Okay.
I really think you should, everybody in your audience should watch that movie, A White Man's Burden. And that's what we got here. We got a white man's burden in this country right now. And we got these Antifa thugs, these punks going around looting and white trash, garbage, destroying our Constitution of our founding fathers, who were the greatest men ever in our history in this country. And they're trying to destroy them. They're going to play the national anthem. Or do you want you to kneel? Nobody's going to watch football anymore, Mike. It's over for that crap. The National Felon League. Can't even stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I got to let you go. We got to take a break.
All right, thank you, Mike. God bless you.
We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. We have a special promotion going on at Republic Broadcasting. This is a fundraiser for Republic Broadcasting involving the Energy Cleaner. Mail me a postcard. My address is at my website at thelibertyman.com. We pick a postcard every other Thursday. When your postcard is drawn out, you get to buy an Energy Cleaner for $215 instead of $285, $70 discount. $200 goes to Republic Broadcasting. You also get a 10% discount on my mattress pads. So get those postcards in, put your name, your telephone number, your email address on there, and when your postcard is drawn, you get to get an Energy Cleaner for $215 instead of $285. Mattress pads, 10% off. Help us out at Republic Broadcasting and help yourself to get an Energy Cleaner at a deep discount. It's a win-win situation for everybody. We hope you can get these postcards in soon. Thank you very much.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Extendovite really works. Here are some reviews from Amazon.com. John Hess, 5 out of 5 stars. Awesome. Probably my only review, but at age 40, I was getting bad heartthrob and left arm pain, mainly before bed. I even stopped smoking and drinking sodas for a month, and that didn't work. After one day of taking Extendovite, it was gone and hasn't returned in 3 years. I've ordered Extendovite 13 times, so Amazon just said. Juliet Hordick. I've ordered this product before in liquid form. It is fantastic. My whole family's been on it. To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822, or visit our website at heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If they don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, I mean the panic is on. Can't get no way, can't draw no pay. Unemployment gets
Welcome back to our show here. We're going to go back to the phones here to Miles in Maine. Hello, Miles. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Aloha, Michael. Yeah, you know, every time I hear Pompeo or see Pompeo, I always ask myself, where's Joseph McCarthy? Well, that guy is really always up to something, you know, and how he came out of nowhere and just slithered into all these State Department positions and stuff is just amazing, but crazy. And that was the best call by Dan I've heard Dan come up with in a while. It was really interesting info, Dan from Washington. So good job there. Mark, I don't know what to think about Mark. You know, Mark, he doesn't believe in God, but he believes in aliens, UFOs, but he's got a little question mark there with God. I don't know. I'm not quite sure about Mark.
Well, I mean, you know, Mark and I sort of, you know, are in agreement there. I don't think that there's a Zeus or Quetzalcoatl up there in the sky looking at us. But I think given the immensity of the universe, it's inevitable that there does have to be intelligent civilizations out there. Why they would waste their time coming to visit us, I don't know, but I think they're out there.
Yeah, and I understand that kind of thinking, but my question to that is, well, who created them?
Well, again,
that's another question.
That's another question for another
That's
time.
another. Yeah, and you know, Tom, it was a great call by Tom too. You know, Detroit, it was the number one economy in the world. I mean, it delivered World War II to the United States side. One little item of kind of concern there, though, is that Detroit has never returned. And the reason Detroit has never returned and what happened in the 67 riots in Detroit is exactly what you're seeing now. And they destroyed that economy. They destroyed that state. You know, I'll give you a little interesting tidbit here. 52% of all the state revenue in Michigan goes to one city. It's Detroit. All the state tax revenue. 52%, and it's probably more by now, but that was up to a few years back. Goes to one city. And the city's still in shambles. It has a couple little areas here that thrive because the billionaires, millionaires, whatever they are over there, now who knows now, they get their tax incentives and discounts. So they build the nice nightclubs and bars for all the college kids to come down to, and they own the sports team. So after the game's over and they made all their money, it's not over yet. They can go to their establishments and stay there till midnight, 1 or 2. Then they can come out at night and get robbed and killed. And so then I guess they supply the hospital with revenue too. But
well, I guess they do. Anyway, listen, Miles, I hate to interrupt, but Mark called back in and he wants to respond to you. Is that okay with you?
That's fine, yes.
Okay, well, let's bring Mark back onto the conversation here. And a reminder, you two, be polite and respectful. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, sure. I just want to correct something, Miles. You said I don't believe in God. I never said anything of the sort. I said I do believe in God. I don't believe in the Abrahamic way, the Abrahamic religions, but I believe in like a great spirit, okay? A higher,
yeah, that's right.
higher authority.
I agree.
Okay? I don't believe in God.
I agree.
That's not you believe in God. Maybe not the way you believe in God, but I believe in God, all right?
Yeah,
more like the Native Americans.
Okay,
That's
now it's
basically
time for Miles
That's
to
what
respond.
you said.
Mark, let Miles respond.
Mark, I agree. That is what you said. I didn't quite try to summarize it in that respect, but that is what you said. I agree.
All right. Okay. As long as you know,
We're all
because I
friends
don't,
again.
I get sensitive about that because I do believe in God, and very much do I believe in God. So, but it's just not the Abrahamic way of believing in. Okay? That's all.
Well, I would,
Thanks.
was Mark still on there, Michael?
Yeah, I'm there.
Yeah, Mark is still there.
Yeah.
Hey, okay. I would like to say one thing though. You continually talk about Trump, and either one of those two candidates will take you to war. No, I don't believe that, because if you look back, there hasn't been a Republican president that has taken us into war. I mean, a real war. So Trump could have taken us into war back months ago in Iran. And luckily, he maintained his composure, and he saw that it was being manipulated by another party there in the Middle East, and Trump restrained himself. So I think that's good. I think that's something good that he was able to show that kind of restraint.
Yeah, well, as long as he's got people like Pompeo and his son-in-law in there, and he had Bolton in before, and he's got that other bum there, Abrams, anything is possible. It could happen at any time. You don't keep people like that around you close, or you're asking for trouble when you do.
Yeah, and that's what I was just mentioning to Michael about Pompeo. But to Trump's credit too, he did make sure he got rid of Bolton, and that was like pulling teeth, because the establishment and the neocons were all in quite an uproar when Trump dumped Bolton. But
if I'm a police chief, I'm not going to hire Jesse James to be my assistant. Okay, I mean, come on.
You know what? I'll tell you a little something about the system in regards to that. And there's an old saying, and I find it true: it takes a crook to catch a crook.
Well, I don't know about that. Okay, he could have. There's a lot of people he could have put in there. First of all, he never should have done what he did to Flynn. He should have backed Flynn up. I'd have gotten rid of Pence before I got rid of Flynn.
Wait, Trump.
That was his
no matter
most
how
valuable
much
man.
Trump, wait a minute. It's Trump that got the review going about Flynn. That Trump that created the stir about Flynn that started all the review on Flynn's case. It was Trump.
Yeah, but why did he fire him in the first place?
Well,
He didn't have to fire him. He had a choice.
Well,
He had every one of a choice. Flynn hadn't been indicted at that point. Flynn, he supposedly he lied to Pence. That was the nonsense they were talking. Pence shouldn't have even been able to talk to him. Flynn should have kept. Flynn was Trump's most valuable man. Okay, he was. He knew where the deep state buried his bodies. Okay, he knew absolutely. That was his first big mistake, and it showed he was basically gutless and not very smart in getting rid of his best man.
No, he didn't, because Trump didn't just abandon Flynn. He stayed behind Flynn about as long as he could. Trump's also.
No, 3 weeks.
Trump's also got to, let me finish, please. Trump's also got to maintain his presence as a commander in chief, and he's supposed to, let me remind you, he's supposed to be a nonpartisan party to these type of issues. So I agree, Flynn is a good man. I think Flynn's an awesome guy. But I think Trump went about and did about as much as he could. Trump couldn't interfere with it any longer because they were prosecuting him, and whatever Trump said that wasn't going to hold any water with them. They had made up their mind they were going to prosecute him. The problem is,
he could have. First of all,
let me finish. Can I finish?
Yeah,
here?
come on, Mark. Please stop interrupting.
Sure. Okay.
You know, the problem as I see it is Trump rode that horse as long as he could without showing partiality, and he can't very well do that. Okay, and he can't just call off whatever investigation's going on, in my opinion, because he's the president. It just doesn't hold muster, and it doesn't look viable. It doesn't look genuine. So I think the mistake there was that Flynn should have never pled guilty. Flynn should have stuck to his guns, and that's, if you look at it, the whole issue revolves around that issue. And I agree, though. Some of these guys, Trump should not have, and I agree with Michael. I've said it myself. Trump should have cleared the deck day one. You know, I mean, he should have told them before day one, if I'm elected, you guys get ready to clear your desks out because you're going to be getting your pink slip. So we can't walk that back now. You know what I mean? And who knows what Trump was thinking? Maybe Trump thought he wanted to be the last one to be able to pet the alligator before it tore its arm off. I don't know. We don't know. And we don't know what he's been told. You know, but in Trump's not a politician. He's not fast at figuring a lot of these motivations out. And I agree. His son-in-law, Pompeo, and there's quite a few others, they need to go. But what I'm looking at is a second term where Trump's term limited. It's done with. And I'm looking for that next term to see the real Trump. And I'm going to tell you, when Trump's wrong, I'm glad to tell you he's wrong. But he's the best we got. And by far, he's the best we got. And there's nothing else that comes close. And that's just the sadness of the Republican Party. In a nutshell, that's what it is. I mean, we've got no farm team. Now, we got some guys that are showing some rays of hope. Nunes, Jim Jordan particularly. Collins, I think, is the one guy's name. We do have some bright spots, but there's not enough at this point. And we have to keep on doing what we're doing here at RBN with this station like this. Got to keep educating people, got to keep refuting the fake news, and we got to keep this independent media viable. I think that's the most important thing.
All right.
Okay, well, I think actually we're running short on time, so Miles and Mark, I'm going to let you go.
Yes,
and
Mark, thank you for your call.
Okay, and we're going to switch over to Jim in New York. Hello, Jim. Thank you for waiting patiently. What's on your mind?
Oh, hi, Mike. How are you? I haven't called in like 3 months.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I've been working, so I usually get home late. You said a couple weeks ago, vote your conscience. Vote your conscience.
Yes.
My conscience says that I won't be voting for Trump. I believe the lesser of two evils is still evil.
I agree.
I also believe you have to earn my vote. I don't just throw my vote around like candy. You have to earn it. And unfortunately, I respect people like Tom and Miles, and I respect anyone who votes for Trump, votes for someone else, or doesn't vote at all. You have to make your own decision. Voting is a personal decision. I just don't think Trump is the way to change things. I think in many ways he's just put people to sleep, particularly the right or middle America. Everyone's asleep. They're wearing masks. I wonder what the reaction would be of the alt-right if, say, Hillary were president and he'd be telling us all to wear masks. Would they go along with it? I don't know. My guess is yes. But Rick in Arizona last week made a very good point. He said that Biden's going to throw the election. It looks like Biden's like the designated loser.
It
like
does happen.
Bob Dole, remember when he ran against Clinton?
Yes.
So I kind of think so. I think Biden's gonna lose. He's losing his mind. I think he may have dementia. So I think Trump. So Tom and Miles. I think Trump's gonna win. So don't worry. But one more thing. People say, "Oh, and I've heard this. I heard this argument in 2000. Oh, you can't have Gore win." Guess what? Got Bush Jr. How did that turn out? The worst president, in my opinion, the worst president in my lifetime. False flag, 9/11, started trillion-dollar wars, started Homeland Security and the TSA, Patriot Act, legitimizing torture. So this argument that, oh, you can't let Biden win, I heard that same argument in 2000. So what do you think of that?
Well, we don't know who actually won the election in 2000. We know the Supreme Court handed it to Bush, but we never really got a full recount on Florida. So at this point,
yes.
And we need to be very much aware that we're going to see similar chicanery this election as well. In fact, we've got the head of the Federal Election Commission already out there saying we may not know who won the election on election night. Now, there's no guarantee in the Constitution that we're supposed to have that happen. And before the age of telegraph and radio and so forth, it would often be weeks before the country found out who won the election. That's why there's such a long time between the election night and the inauguration, was for the board to percolate out and for everybody to get ready for the changeover in power. But I will mention one thing here before we let you go, and I'm changing topics slightly here. This election is going to be very unique in that it's going to happen right next to the income tax deadline. Because of the coronavirus, people who filed for an extension to file their taxes for 2019 have until the middle of October to file those taxes. So you think about that. When you file your taxes in October, just remember all those numbers and let that be your guide going into the November elections.
It's a very good point. Yes, one more quick point. Miles said, well, maybe after he's reelected, we'll get the real Trump. But we can't be so sure who the real Trump is. I wouldn't count on him being with you. He could turn out, the real Trump could turn out to be a liberal New Yorker. So it's just a thought. But I respect anyone who votes their conscience. If you want to vote for Trump, I respect that. If you don't want to vote at all, I respect that.
Well, I have to disagree with that one, because if you don't vote, if you don't use up that voter registration, somebody else will.
Well, the argument is, and I've heard this argument, that if you believe the system is so beyond corrupt, and by voting, you're like legitimizing it. This is the argument I've heard. And, it's a fair argument.
Yeah, but look what happened in 2016. That was one of the crookedest elections in American history, but enough Americans voted to overcome the vote rigging. I mean, this is why we've got riots in Belarus right now. The challenger thought he got 80% of the vote, and the incumbent said, no, I got the 80% of the vote, and I'm going to stay being president. And now they've got firefights in the street. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, Jim, we got to let you go. Take a break for commercials. Last segment of our program coming up. We have 2 more callers waiting on the line, and we'll be right back.
Hey gang, Patrick Slattery here with an important message that is pertinent to anyone who shops for groceries, eats food, or just has an inquisitive mind like myself. What I'm about to introduce you to is a segment of our food culture that has been kept so low profile to the American public that virtually no one is aware of how dominant it is on our refrigerator and cupboard shelves. What I'm talking about is the kosher certification industry and a new app, Koshertified, that delivers a comprehensive education on all aspects regarding this little-known practice. After reviewing this app, I found that it is useful for practically anyone who purchases food, regardless of their religious faith or identity. Its database of products not kosher certified is a win-win convenience for all food-conscious people. So why not check out the kosherquestion.com or click on the link at nationalbugle.com and see how modifying your grocery shopping with the Koshertified app can make a huge difference for your future.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Extendovite really works. Here are some reviews from Amazon.com. Amazon customer, 5 out of 5 stars. I'm quite happy about it. This product has relieved what appears to be an angina problem, pain in the chest after climbing stairs, and short on breath. I'm quite happy about it. Dr. Sam Surreal. Good product and ingredients. Kept my blood pressure normal after mild heart attack in 2015. Switched to plant-based diet also to reverse atherosclerosis. John Bispicos, 5 out of 5 stars. Built up my immune system. To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit our website at heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
What would you say if I told you we have a new tool that will increase production and lower maintenance costs for your meat processing company? And it would pay for itself in just 6 weeks.
When pigs fly!
The new EaseOff Model EZ4 replaces old spring-style carcass droppers and is faster, safer, and more reliable. The EaseOff lowers or lifts 1,000 pounds to or from your rail automatically using our remote control.
Sounds expensive. Can I afford it?
Can you afford not to try the EaseOff? It installs fast with just 3 bolts in place of your current dropper. The effortless operation will reduce fatigue and injuries, speed up your line, eliminate downtime, and increase profit.
How can I order my EaseOff?
Go to easeoff.com, EAZEOFF.com, and hurry because we are offering $200 off on the new EZ4 for a limited time. Easeoff.com. We make pigs fly. Cows too. EaseOff LLC, Summersville, Missouri, 417-932-6419.
If you got the money, honey, we got the bombs. We'll plant them anywhere you like and blow up anyone. Whip this world into a frenzy, killing babies, dads, and moms. If you got the money, honey, we got the bombs. If you got the money, well, we won't say we did. The towers in New York.
And welcome back to our show here. And Biden and Harris just finished their little presser here. And I've got an email on that very subject. Mike, I'm watching this freak show, probably one of the worst I've ever seen, completely devoid of any energy. Biden mumbling through most of it. Harris not much better. I think they're setting up the big switcheroo for Hillary to replace Biden. Maybe they're going to have Hillary replace Harris. I don't know, but it's the Democrats have a disaster. on their hands. I really think they. All right, we're going to go back to the phones here. Joe in Wyoming, welcome to the show. Thank you for waiting patiently. What's on your mind?
Right now during
Joe, are
all
you
this.
there? Joe, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you now. You're on the air. What's on your mind?
Oh, okay. I'm glad to be living in Wyoming during all this. I can tell you that. I just got a theory I want to throw by you. I don't know what you think of it. I think back to when Trump hung that Andrew Jackson painting in his Oval Office.
Yeah.
And I think about stuff he's been doing. He's been kind of throwing little hints out here and there about the Fed that I've been kind of listening to. I remember you talking about, I think it was back in March, you'd kind of mentioned something about a jubilee that would need to happen in order to basically reset and get us out of this debt-based currency that we're using. And I'm watching what he's doing right now with the payroll tax, which is being withheld till the end of the year, and the non-payment on student loans and interest until further notice, stuff like that. And I'm almost wondering if he's kind of waiting until the second term to pull the trigger on possibly getting us out of this system. You know, if this is all just, if he's kind of playing them, you know what I mean? I've been talking to my brother about it since Trump was first elected, and I haven't been a big fan of Trump. I've been watching a lot of the stuff he's done, and I haven't agreed with most of it.
Yes.
But I'm kind of wondering if he's trying to just play this smart, you know what I mean? Because, I mean, other presidents that have just outright come out and tried to do it have been assassinated. You know what I mean? I'm half wondering if there's a possibility that he might be, you know, trying to pull this off and waiting till his second term to do so. What do you think?
Well, you're right. Unfortunately, presidents who stand up to the Federal Reserve do have a habit of getting shot at or poisoned or some other thing like that. I don't know. I would like to hope that Trump will be the president we voted for in 2016 after 2020. I'm a little bit less optimistic about it than some other people. I think we're seeing Trump the way he really is, and he'll just coast through his second term and then go on the lecture tour.
Yeah. See, and I think what it is for me is it's just this little thing, little tiny bit of hope. You know what I mean? I think that's all we can really hang on to until.
Well, I'm letting go of that. Anyway, Joe,
we gotta defend ourselves. So,
Joe, I gotta let you go.
Appreciate it, Mike.
All right. Apologies to the callers who did not get in the air, and try and call back tomorrow. Stay tuned for John Stedmiller. I'm sure he's got lots of interesting things to share with you. Spread the word of RBN. Spread the word of whatreallyhappened.com. Please donate. It is very, very important. Thanks to everybody who's already donated. We'll catch you tomorrow. Aloha, America.